let's get into some weep stuff to kind of like get out of like this like well bubble that I'm in. Let's react to some Frieren world building. I'm curious about this. Like I loved Frieren.
Sometimes
Frieren is a TV show that you should fucking watch, and yeah, like you should definitely um like you should fucking like definitely like watch Frieren in general. Like don't even think too much about it. Like it is this good. It is this fucking awesome. Um, so let's check it out. So the secret to Frieren world building. So for me, it's actually so I'll tell you this. Like for me, Frieren I think is a game changer just because for once you get a fucking story that is not about like saving the world, but with saving the world or like some like fucking unrealistic and fucking like just stupid high stakes, right? Stupid like motivations like that is dangerous, saving the world, saving like something like a destiny fucking like, but at the same time it's made with like interesting characters. Like the same, you get the same characters that like usually save the world. Technically there is like something like interesting about it, but it's not about fucking saving the world or like fucking like in any moment everything can fucking fall down. I think that like when it comes to world building, this is what like actually got me into free rent as well. But there's like so many things, but yeah.
art is big. Sometimes art is big. Sometimes it's grandiose. It can reach soaring heights with climactic finales.
And also free rent, like said, like and showed, is grandiose without like this fucking like as well like high stake like fucking like it doesn't need to fucking like have like basically life or death situation like every like kind of like last episode finale type of like moment to be grandiose. And this is actually something like, from free rent that I really love. It's like it doesn't fucking like take like the last episode of the last season to fucking be grandiose. It actually it gets grandiose like right when you like as you fucking watch, you know.
But sometimes doesn't mean always. There are many outstanding examples of subtlety in Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Some probably stuck with you, but true to a video about subtlety, I'm going to choose one that I think doesn't come to mind first. One from an episode I've already talked about. My name is Pei, and today we're going to be talking about these little guys. While at first glance these just seem to be squirrels, don't be tricked. This is a fantasy story, and nothing's more fantasy than taking animals from our world and giving them different names. These guys are seed rats, and what makes them special isn't just that they're important to the story, but more specifically that they are, yet somehow they blend in with all the other countless pieces of information that are exposed to us in Frieren that are never extrapolated on. We're going to be talking about a lot of things today, so I'm breaking them up into three major parts.
Okay, this is also interesting that like yeah, there's a so in free rent there's also like a lot of like things that are like special, but like they don't fucking focus on like one fucking special thing during all the show that makes the world building and the world of the anime itself like special. And this is like really interesting.
First is
This is a good
storytelling
point.
structure. Chekhov's gun argues that anything introduced to a story should be pertinent to the story itself. But in the process of only ever highlighting information that is pertinent to the story, you create an incredibly predictable system. And something that can consistently add a realistic feeling to any story when done properly is the introduction of information that doesn't directly serve the plot, but still feels true to the world around it. And then on top of that, sprinkling in important information for the plot amongst that large barrage of real world building. I think a great example where an artist has been incredibly successful with this type of subtle storytelling is Hayao Miyazaki. Think about how many times people have talked about the train scene from Spirited Away, and how that scene in particular doesn't do much to serve the plot, and in many other films would have been reduced to a short montage. However, that's not to say that anyone
It is called like atmospheric storytelling, like scenery storytelling, environment storytelling, and this is also like really important. And he's right, like in Frieren, there's like this atmospheric storytelling. So basically, just like, well, the reason why fucking Lord of the Ring is actually so fucking like huge, because like they don't fucking always fight, is they always show, is they also show you like a scenery, so an environment where like the character progresses the same way as like the train like scene. But in Free Ren, it's, well, it's really similar now that I think of it, like to fucking like Lord of the Rings, where it's like, but it's in a TV show. Is it kind of like use the same like rhythm logics? And this is what like I think like it is really like like makes it like really something special.
making stories would benefit from this style of creation. I'm not saying it's a good idea to just throw significantly more information at the audience. If done poorly, it's really confusing, and I've seen a lot of people criticize Miyazaki's most recent film, The Boy and the Heron, for this exact reason. There's a fine line between nuance and nonsense. So the main danger of
Yeah, like on this one, like also I agree, because like there's like a big difference between like sparkling like your world with like like magical like things, right? Magical facts, magical like stuff, but also like to just like stuffing it with like random stuff that makes it like shiny, basically.
this type of storytelling is information overload. Writers, producers, and studios often vocalize how important every second in a story is. But when you get lost in storytelling that's too efficient, you lose what world building is, which is to create a setting for the characters to exist in that doesn't feel like it disappears as soon as it goes off frame. Like I said last week, good writing implies stuff that's going on beyond what we can see. And I think that's a major component of what makes these scenes so significant.
And also what we can imagine, like what TV show, like anime, movie, video game, or theater allows you to imagine. Like this is also like is something with Free Ren that really like makes great. What can you imagine when you're watching Free Ren or after watching Free Ren? Same as like in it will like, and it's the same with Lord of the Rings, for example. What can you imagine? A lot of things. Like, and this is like
ones that almost feel
one of the many points that like makes Free Run really special.
throwaway or never given explanation. In reality, there's not meaning to every single thing we're introduced to, and that can help a lot when it comes to making a world feel full. Because my favorite settings, especially in fantasy, aren't just there to serve the plot or characters. They feel like a living, breathing world. And this is where Miyazaki and the creators of Frieren really thrive, in subtle, beautiful world building. So why doesn't everyone tell stories this way? When you introduce a lot of information and show scenes that may not be directly important for the plot,
because it's really difficult to fucking make the nuance. And like I will tell you also, as well, it's also really fucking difficult. We tend to criticize like this type of art and like storytelling as like it's one dude that made it, right? Like a painting, like a, but like a song, right? But like there's like a whole lot. It's based on a manga, but after that, there's also like the whole like team that will animate it, voice it, like promote it, like right. So yeah.
you risk alienating your audience by confusing them. It's very easy to get lost while consuming a story. So a very important part of telling stories, with some exception, is guiding your audience so they know what's going on. That exception, by the way, is sometimes writers do purposely confuse their audiences, but that's a fine line to walk, and it's very easy, if you mess it up, to end up with everyone disengaged. So how does this apply to the second episode of Frieren Beyond Journey's End? Common sentiment I've seen in the comment section of my most recent video is that Frieren is an incredibly dense show. Many people who thought they were 8 or 9 episodes in came back to realize they'd only watched a couple. It's something that's consistent across
This is true, and this is like also why like I actually like had to like take the time to watch it because like I will burn out just watching it because it's even though it's like not it's not your fucking like hero like superhero type of journey where it's like first episode like My Hero Academia where like you start the episode and it's like and there's like the school and there's like 15 fucking powers and there's like this dude with a destiny. It's like really slow but at the same time it's really fucking like dense and powerful. I'd say it's powerful, that's why, but in a good way, not in a fucking like watch this and there's like a billion thing to watch as well next to it, right?
Across the entire series with one exception, which I think was on purpose, but we'll get to that later. These episodes are so full of information and story that I'm shocked at how much they're able to tell in such a short amount of time. And that's also juxtaposed with the fact that I think this show takes tons of time to tell the story it wants to. I think it's well paced, but I wouldn't be shocked if someone walked away from watching it saying, it's too slow for me. Because my experience watching Frieren was full of contradiction.
Yeah, like you need to actually like well about like the superhero type of stories like anime, like you actually need to fucking like just take the time to readapt to another like rhythm of storytelling. And once you do, like there's no turning back. At least like there is no like turning back if you like it to actually like seeing Frieren as like something really like unique and like out there, you know, like it's something like out of the ordinary.
A constantly adapting oxymoron. How can a show feel so densely packed but also very airy and full of space? How can it explore so many different ideas but also feel like it's constantly meandering? Well, I think a major contributing factor to this is the way the story is told subtly. The world feels so big because they include so much information that isn't directly tied to the story. Because Frieren isn't exactly a show about a specific story. More so, the adventure and experiences, it's almost episodic, except for the fact that they're densely filled with character development and overarching themes. Because as a baseline to enjoy the episode, you don't have to fully understand the depth behind it. But like most pieces of media that lend themselves to analysis, there's huge amounts of substance behind the initial first viewing. A beautiful example of this is Fern's relationship with nature around her. There's this running theme throughout the series that constantly, when given an opportunity, Fern's gonna have a little moment with some sort of animal or creature. When she's learning magic, she has birds landing on her. She interacts with the giant tortoise in episode 2, and in episode 3, she pets a cat. That one's a little bit more relatable. But theoretically, there's lots you could infer about what this is supposed to represent in the story. Though, in season 1, they never explain.
I actually didn't even notice, and these are like the little things that like actually like when it comes to imagining, well, that actually like makes the world like alive and breathing, because like Fern, like you don't notice it, but it that's why Fern is actually like more like something more like it's just like more interesting than your average character. Like little things like this that like I actually didn't notice, but it's true. Without that, like I will, but and it just adds up. It just adds up over and over. Like you will have this and another little fact about Fern and another little fact, and basically that's how it
Explicitly give an
works.
answer. Maybe it represents Fern's natural affinity towards magic. In Frieren, there's a lot of metaphors that overlap magic and nature. Maybe it represents her kindness, the value in which she gives each living creature. It could represent her moving on past the hardships of her childhood, learning magic out in the forest with Hyder's guidance when she was his ward. It could represent many things, but we're not sure what it exactly represents because it's open to interpretation. So in episode 2, when Fern and Frieren are doing the rather mundane task of cleaning a statue, one that happens to be a statue of Himmel the hero, Fern finds two seed rats having snuck into the florist's store. Afraid that there might be some sort of repercussion for them stealing some of the seeds, she sneaks them out. Now this is where things get interesting. If this story closely followed the rules of Chekhov's gun, then those seed rats would definitely be important in some way. And they are, except for the fact that this story so far has introduced tons of little moments like Fern interacting with animals leading up to this. And that's only one example of many different parts of world building that this story participates in that aren't directly connected to the progression of plot.
Yeah, and also like it makes like characters like not look like storytelling tools, where it's like Frieren doesn't isn't like the fucking like hero, and Fern the support, and another character is like basically like they're like closed within like their like of their, so like way more than just like the hero or the bad, the enemy, or, and this is what makes it like interesting.
This isn't even the first introduction to seed rats that we've gotten in this episode. The opening scene of this second story that we get in episode 2 is of pumpkins being harvested, in which we're introduced to the seed rats. But the plot of this second story in episode 2 is ultimately about flowers and what they represent. Those blue moon weeds that we were talking about. Which, by the way, what a fantastic choice in name. A perfect balance between romantic and realistic. What a fantastic present.
What name?
Those blue moon weeds that we were talking about. Which, by the way, what a fantastic choice in name. A perfect balance between romantic and realistic. What a good example of small things that continuously add up to make for outstanding world building. Essentially, this flower was one of Himmel's favorite, and Frieren has a spell that will allow her the opportunity to create a field of flowers, which, by the way, will be very important later in the story, but we'll get there eventually. So where's the conflict? Well, turns out Frieren, to use this spell, has to have seen the flower she wants to create. However, she's never seen a blue moon weed, and no one spotted one in the area for a couple decades. Then once again, in a blink of an eye, or rather a beautiful montage, Frieren and Fern have spent the last 6 months looking for this flower, and Fern has reached a breaking point. Unsure of how to voice her frustrations, Fern approaches the florist, asking for advice, and she urges Fern to communicate it directly to Frieren, despite her.
And this is also like something in storytelling that like we don't see, is actually like, well, the burning out of the people, because like you see the adventure and everyone's motivated all the time to fucking like keep going and stuff. And like in Frieren, like you get this like, oh my fucking god, it's been like 2 years we've been walking. Oh my fucking god, she is still fucking struggling to fucking get this thing done. Oh my fucking god, she told me that Frieren told me that like it will take like 5 to 6 months to even just like reach the next like objective, the next town, right? So, and like this is like also adds like something that like you don't see in other animes. People are just like motivated to travel the world all the time. Well, like in reality, like traveling is really fucking like expensive. It's really fucking tiring like it's really like takes a lot of energy. And like this is like also like it depicts like Freeman depicts like a lot of like the adventure, a lot of sides of adventure that like are realistic but in a fantasy setting, and also like are like missing, that makes like a lot of fantasy adventures really like look dull sometimes, you know?
Her appearance and many of her actions, she's more mature than she lets on. So they sit down and have a conversation, which the presentation and way it plays out is just a remarkably cool scene. Fern expresses how she feels, and Frieren acknowledges those emotions. This conflict is small in the grand scheme of things, but it's another example of subtle storytelling. It doesn't really do much initially to further the plot of this story. However, it feels like an incredibly realistic form of conflict. A major component of this series is the way Frieren perceives time. Trying to offer an olive branch, or in this case, a solution, Fern presents Frieren a bag of rare seeds related to the blue moon weed, a gift from the florist. And while Frieren acknowledges her feelings, she can only guarantee that they'll move on soon. Fern, much like anyone who's young and spent too long in a place they didn't want to, is concerned. Before suddenly, seed rats steal those same seeds, and Frieren shares that seed rats famously bury their food to hide it. They also famously forget where they buried their food very often, using a magical spell to follow their footprints. Another example of something they never overtly explain, just show the audience, they track the seed rat back to an abandoned tower. And we're given a flashback to Frieren's previous adventure, where she took a desolate set of ruins and created a field of flowers, where Himmel shared two things with her. First, placing a wreath of flowers on her head, and second, sharing that he loves blue moon weeds, a flower native to his home. Jumping back to the present, we see Frieren pick up a blue petal at the base of the tower, and then levitating to the top, Fern close behind, Frieren sees a beautiful collection of blue moonweeds. I think this is the first time in the series we get a big moment, one that feels like a magnificent and huge triumph. Which is funny because it kind of feels like what I was talking about before, it's almost an oxymoron. While there aren't really any stakes, there's still a substantial significance. This scene hits so hard because it's set up by the most beautiful, subtle world building. One where seed rats and flowers are intermingled with giant tortoises and cauldrons. Frieren doesn't just embrace subtle storytelling, it flourishes in it. Oh,
Yeah, and also like it takes the time to fucking like with a different storytelling rhythm, you can tell different stories. And I feel that like a lot of stories these days when it comes to anime have like the same like really like almost annoying like really fast storytelling rhythm where like Frieren actually takes the time to fucking like take the time, right? And because of that it allows to tell other stories and to make them interesting, because like a story about flowers with the wrong rhythm, let's say like take your fucking Naruto One Piece rhythm, right? Or like what is it called, um solo leveling, right? Well, basically, like the problem is that like you cannot tell these type of stories at all because of the rhythm. You can with like the big three, right? But like when it comes to others, it's not really possible because the rhythm is just like not the same. And but in these TV, like in this type of like storytelling, stories they still try, and it doesn't fit because like you need to change the rhythm at least for the episode to make it fucking worth. While they a lot of times they struggle to do that, and that's why like it's so like kind of off, and people are like, oh yeah, the fucking like let's say like off season episode like that just adds some lore, people fucking skip it almost, you know.
oh yeah, and we're only on episode 2. Thank you for watching. This video is the third in a running series about Frieren. If you enjoyed it, come back next week for another, or go check out my previous 2. If you want to support me or this series, consider going to my Patreon where I have 4 exclusive video essays up now. Thanks. See
Okay, yeah, subscribe to fucking Pay Talks Anime. Like this was actually like grandiose as well. He takes the time to talk about like a lot of like the scenery. And so I started by saying actually he used an argument that is like different, but that adds up, like just like make in like allowing yourself through another rhythm through like to make like what you will not watch or care in a lot of like other animes like matter. And like the basically like it's a story about flowers, right? Like so this was interesting, I really like this one. Okay.